Everyone knows that Noah, the young master of the Beijing Circle, was kidnapped when he was young. And it was me, his fiancée who had a betrothal agreement since childhood, who risked my life to save him. When I was rescued, my clothes were tattered and my body was covered with bruises. Everyone said that when I was supposedly defiled, Noah hugged me with great distress in his eyes and said, "Aurora, I will definitely marry you. I will shield you from all the gossip in the future." However, 6 years after our marriage, he seemed to love me desperately in public, but was extremely cold and distant behind the scenes. Until Mei La appeared. Noah, regardless of his married status, pursued her like a madman. Because of a word from her, he could burn the painting that I had spent 3 years creating without batting an eye. And because I didn't buy ice cream for Mei La, he could press my head and force me to kneel on the ground, and pour strong liquor down my throat until I had a gastric hemorrhage. But Noah said infuriately, "I prefer a lover as pure as a blank sheet of paper rather than a tainted wife. Aurora, you know best whether you were defiled by those people or not." Later, Mei La forced him to divorce me by threatening to commit suicide. He directly locked me, who suffered from claustrophobia, in a dark and windowless basement. I died in fear and distress, while he flew abroad with her and lived a carefree life. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself on the day when Noah proposed to me. This time, I put away my love of many years and booked a plane ticket to a place thousands of miles away a week later. Under the rain of petals in the sky, he knelt down on one knee with affection in his eyes. "Aurora, marry me." I shook my head infuriately and took a step back. "Noah, let's break up." "What? Is Aurora crazy?" "Exactly. Why does she have the right to reject President Noah? Who doesn't know that she was?" "It's just that Noah is infatuated. If it were me, I would never marry a woman like her who is considered used goods. I think she's just playing hard to get." As my words fell, the onlookers angrily condemned me. Their eyes were filled with contempt and disgust. If looks could kill, I'm afraid I would have died thousands of times in an instant. After Noah heard what I said clearly, the deep affection and the depths of his eyes disappeared in an instant, and even the smile on his lips became a bit stiff. He asked me coldly, "Aurora, did I do something to make you unhappy?" As he spoke, he suddenly stood up and tried to grab my hand. But I subconsciously took a step back, looked at him firmly, and repeated again, "Noah, let's break up." The scene of being locked in the basement by him without hesitation in my previous life was still vivid in my mind. I, who suffered from claustrophobia, died in fear and distress. What's more terrifying than death was those days without light. The unknown environment and the terribly silent atmosphere were like a silent torture, gradually tormenting my body and mind until I collapsed. I even hit the wall more than once just to get liberation earlier. Noah clearly knew that I developed this disease while saving him. Yet he still cruelly locked me in the place I feared the most. My resistant movement fell into his eyes. Noah's expression instantly became extremely gloomy and fierce. He retracted his hand hanging in the air, clenched it so hard that it creaked, and said, "Although I don't know what kind of temper you're throwing, can't you just endure it in such an occasion today?" As he spoke, he grabbed my hand regardless and tried to put the ring on my finger. I was startled and struggled desperately. With a slap, during the pushing and shoving, I slapped Noah across the face. He stopped the movement of grabbing my wrist, and his eyebrows instantly furrowed. Gnashing his teeth, he said, "Aurora, do you really have to make trouble with me? I've known him for more than 20 years. So I naturally know how angry he is now. In the past, I would have bowed and scraped to please him. But this time I didn't." After yanking off the ring that had been put on my finger, I threw the ring directly at Noah's face without blinking an eye, and said infuriately, "I'm not making trouble." After saying this, I left the place under the astonished gazes of everyone. Since I was a child, I knew that I would definitely marry Noah when I grew up. In order to be worthy of him, I could only make myself as excellent as he was. Until he was kidnapped by the rival of the Noah family group when he was 18. When everyone was at a loss, it was me who took the initiative to risk my life and exchanged myself for Noah. When I was rescued, there were many reporters on the scene. And my clothes were tattered and my body was covered with bruises. At that time, everyone was certain that I must have been defiled by those kidnappers during the kidnapping. But Noah firmly embraced me, covered my ears, and blocked those rumors. He also vowed that he would marry no one but me. In my previous life, I always thought that he loved me. But the tragic ending told me that I was really stupid. A rapid ringtone of my mobile phone sounded. I took out my phone and saw that it was Noah calling. After hesitating for a moment, I pressed the hang up button. But he stubbornly called again and again. Finally, heading fulfilledly, I pressed the answer button. But the next second, Noah's furious roar came from the other end of the phone. Aurora, I think you're really crazy. Do you know how long I've been preparing for this proposal? Who the hell allowed you to leave just like that? Come back now and apologize to me. And I'll pretend that everything just now didn't happen. Before he could finish, I directly hung up the phone and blocked and deleted him. Looking at the phone screen, I couldn't help but laugh self-deprecatingly. I seemed to suddenly understand why he married me in my previous life. Perhaps there was a little bit of affection. But more importantly, it was because of Noah's self-movement and his attempt to maintain the image of a deep lover. After all, he revealed his true colors because of my outburst tonight. But come to think of it, it makes sense. Noah has always thought the same as those people. In his heart, I have long been considered impure. The words, "I prefer a lover as pure as a blank sheet of paper rather than a tainted wife," are the best proof. Without the heart-connecting pain of knowing the truth in my previous life, I quickly opened the ticket booking software and booked a plane ticket to Germany a week later. Everything here makes me feel extremely suffocated. It took me 2 days to pack all my luggage. And everything was ready. I thought I wouldn't see Noah again. But I didn't expect to meet him unexpectedly at the birthday party of a mutual friend. I was late. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Noah, who was a bit drunk, leaning on the sofa with a lazy smile. And there was a pure and lovely woman leaning in his arms. It was Mayla. When he saw me coming, Noah hugged Mayla tightly into his arms, as if it was a provocation to me. Aurora. Aurora. I thought you weren't coming? My friend Lucas forced a smile and came up to me. I smiled and handed him the gift. Happy birthday. He took the gift, but his eyes quickly glanced in Noah's direction before he turned his head and continued to say to me, "Don't get me wrong. I heard from Noah that that girl is just his newly hired assistant. It has nothing to do with me." I quickly interrupted Lucas's words. Under his astonished gaze, I walked step by step towards the corner and found a seat to sit down. Unexpectedly, as soon as I sat down, a sweet and cloying smell rushed into my nose. When I raised my eyes, I saw that Mayla had somehow walked up to me. She was holding a glass of champagne in her hand and smiling at me. "Hello, Aurora. I'm Mayla, the newly hired assistant of President Noah. I've long heard that President Noah has a very beautiful fiancée with excellent painting skills. Now that I see you, it's really true. In my previous life, Mayla appeared after I married Noah. But now that I think about it, it was actually that I didn't pay attention. Because I suddenly remembered that not long after our marriage, one day he came home with a big smile on his face. At that time, I asked him if there was any happy event. Noah just said that he had hired an assistant who was capable and could please him. I didn't think much about it and didn't notice whether the assistant was male or female. So in fact, Mayla had already appeared by Noah's side. After realizing this, I just felt it was a bit ridiculous. I slowly raised my eyes and looked at Mayla, and asked without much emotion, "It seems that your information is not accurate enough. Didn't Noah tell you that I have already broken up with him? If you want to move up the ladder, you have plenty of opportunities." Aurora, as if she had suffered a great humiliation, Mayla trembled all over and her eyes were red with grievance. "How can you casually speculate about the relationship between me and President Noah?" Hearing this, I sneered, stood up unhurriedly. "Am I wrong? If you didn't have that kind of thought, could you lean so comfortably in your boss's arms and smile so carpathiously? Mayla, you can't be both a bitch and a saint." At this time, I felt extremely bored and just wanted to leave this place quickly. Unexpectedly, before I took the first step, Mayla dropped the wine glass, covered her face, and burst into tears. Her commotion quickly attracted the attention of everyone present. Seeing her crying, Noah, who was a bit tipsy just now, immediately sobered up. He rushed over like a gust of wind and grabbed my collar. His bloodshot eyes were filled with murderous intent. What did you do to her? It seemed that he would really kill me in the next second. Seeing this, everyone gathered around and pulled Noah away. Even Mayla sobbed and grabbed his arm, crying, President Noah, don't be angry. I just wanted to make friends with Aurora. But I forgot my place and made her misunderstand me. It's reasonable for her to scold me a few times. And I believe she didn't do it on purpose. With just 2 sentences, she shifted all the blame onto me. Hearing this, I was furious and sneered disapprovingly. I turned to look at her. So what if I did it on purpose? Aurora. Noah roared, raised his hand, and swung it towards my face at a rapid speed. I raised my chin, looked at him stubbornly, and didn't blink an eye. Finally, having fulfilled me, his fist stopped 1 centimeter away from my face. Seeing that I didn't show any sign of yielding, Noah cursed under his breath and pushed me away violently. Unexpectedly, I stumbled and lost my balance, and the back of my head hit the corner of the table directly. After a sudden and intense pain that made me feel dizzy, bright red blood dripped down the back of my head onto my white collar. Aurora, are you okay? Seeing this, Lucas quickly ran over and helped me up. He frowned and his eyes were full of worry. Shall I take you to the hospital? My head felt like it was about to explode instantly. The pain made my eyebrows frown tightly. I struggled to stand up and could only lean against the nearby cabinet to avoid falling down. Noah's fingertips trembled slightly and he was also stunned. He opened and closed his mouth several times as if he wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. In the end, he didn't say anything. I raised my hand and wiped the blood that flowed down my cheek. I raised my eyes and looked at Noah. It seems that breaking up with you is really the right-est decision I'd ever made. The embarrassment I experienced on the day of the proposal was brought up again. Noah couldn't hold it in any longer and roared angrily. Do you think anyone wants to marry you? A woman like you who is considered used goods? Aurora, I think you've really gone crazy. Don't forget that after your parents died, it was the Noah family who saved your life and gave you everything you have now. I thought you came here today to sincerely repent and apologize to me. It seems that I thought too much. You won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Fine. Since you're so stubborn, I won't marry you. Let's see who else in Jingsu would want you besides me. Noah? As he spoke, he grabbed Mayla, who was still crying beside him, and walked out. When he passed by me, he paused for a moment, gave a sinister sneer, and said, Aurora, even if you kneel on the ground and beg me now, I won't forgive you. After saying this, he strode away. The night before I left Jingsu, I visited Noah's parents at the Noah family's old residence. What he said that day was indeed true. Since my parents passed away, the Noah family had raised me. But the only people I needed to be grateful to were his parents, not him. When Noah's mother heard that I was going abroad, she asked in surprise, Did you quarrel with Noah? You know that boy has a bad temper since he was a child. Auntie, he's un alone sorry. I'm just feeling tired, I replied with a faint smile. Yes. I was really tired of the life of constantly chasing after Noah. From the moment I was reborn, I was ready to live the rest of my life only for myself. When I came out of the old residence, I happened to bump into Noah, who was coming back. He reeked of alcohol and impatiently tugged at his tie. But the moment he saw me, he froze in place. Our eyes met in the air, and neither of us spoke first. After a long while, What? Afraid that I'd really abandon you? So you came to plead with my parents? Noah sneered and walked up to me step by step, disapprovingly lifting my chin with his finger. Aurora, the person you should be trying to please is me. Don't get the wrong person. Seeing that I didn't respond, he let out a haughty snort, crossed his arms, and continued, Although I don't know what's gotten into you recently, out of consideration for our past relationship, I can forgive you this once. Let's just pretend that what happened on the proposal day never happened. As he spoke, he took out a black velvet box from his pocket. When he opened it, the diamond ring that I had thrown away lay quietly inside. Noah put away his smile and looked up at me. Aurora. Stop being angry with me. A gust of wind blew, lifting my hair. The questions that had been pent up in my heart for 2 lifetimes suddenly made me desperately want an answer. So I took a deep breath and asked, Noah, if I said I wasn't defiled back then, would you believe me? What greeted me was a long silence. It took Noah a long time to come to his senses. He shrugged nonchalantly and smiled. It doesn't matter. I didn't take the ring from him. But I felt a sense of relief because of these 4 words. Yeah. It doesn't matter. In my past life, I already knew his answer. Yet I was still trapped by it. In this life, the story between Noah and me ends here. So whether he believes me or not, it really doesn't matter anymore. 3 years later, when I rushed from the airport to the art exhibition venue, there were already crowds outside. A year ago, my painting won a world-class award, and I became famous overnight. The first stop of this homecoming art exhibition was chosen to be in Jiangsu. So naturally, there were a lot of people coming to see it. I got out of the car wearing a strapless mermaid-style dress. Many reporters and guests at the scene turned their attention to me. But no one at the scene knew my identity because the award-winning artist was the top painter Rose. And no one knew what she looked like or her real name. I walked into the art exhibition as a guest. There were a lot of people coming and going, and the comments were naturally mixed. However, I had always accepted both good and bad reviews from the outside world. Until my gaze fell on the huge painting at the center of the exhibition. Beside the blue sea level, on a white cliff stood a girl in a red dress. The only bright color amidst the blue and white was very eye-catching. The girl's hair was lifted by the sea breeze, and she stood quietly at the edge of the cliff, looking into the distance, as if she had endless thoughts. When I shifted my gaze from the canvas to reality, a tall man in casual clothes stopped in front of the painting. Even just seeing his back and profile, one could feel his noble aura and handsome face. People passing by all turned their eyes and cameras to him. But the noise around him seemed to have nothing to do with him. He just stood there quietly, looking at the girl in the painting. I came back to my senses and walked over slowly, standing beside him. Many people say that Rose's painting style is always unconventional. If the girl in the girl's thoughts was painted in white or light colors, the whole painting would look more harmonious. But I think the glaring red better shows her uniqueness, he said, turning his head slightly to look at me and smiling. Aurora, welcome back to China. I met Finn in Germany. As a top-tier movie star, he participated in a travel variety show. There was a segment where a painter created a painting based on the subject's self-description. Originally, heading to Magzai, my mentor was supposed to participate in the show, but because she suddenly felt unwell, she asked me to go instead. Coincidentally, Finn was the one I painted. I still clearly remember that through the thin white veil, he described his appearance in a deep voice. When I finished the painting, many people were shocked because my style was indeed very unconventional. The noble young man became a more vivid and lively character under my brush. Just when everyone thought that my painting didn't look like Finn at all, he took the initiative to say, "I really like how she painted me." From that day on, he followed my social media account, occasionally liked my works, or chatted with me. Gradually, we became friends who could talk about anything. The organizers of the art exhibition invited Finn and me to the back reception room. This time, the names of the top painter Rose and the top-tier movie star Finn appeared on the trending list at the same time, truly generating a lot of topics and traffic. Aurora, several private collectors today wanted to meet you, but I know your rules, so I declined. But there's a gentleman who really likes your works. He's contacted us several times before, wanting to buy the girl's thoughts. Do you think you could meet him? He's on his way to the art exhibition now. The organizer looked very embarrassed as he said this. After thinking it over, I reluctantly nodded. This painting didn't have a wide audience, and there weren't many people who liked it. After all, It was painted with my skills before I furthered my studies. If that gentleman really liked it so much, I really wanted to hear his thoughts on this painting. While we were waiting, Finn and I sat facing each other and chatted for a while. Even though there were only the two of us in the reception room, the atmosphere wasn't awkward. I heard that you were going to hold the art exhibition in Jingsu, so I cleared my schedule today to come and see it. He still smiled, looking at me with deep eyes. How long are you going to stay this time? I picked up the teacup and took a sip. I'm leaving for the next stop in a week. Hearing this, he didn't answer immediately. After a long while, he looked at me again and asked, "You still have time for dinner tonight?" "Right. Busy lady?" Hearing his teasing, I smiled. Who's busier than Finn? But I really appreciate you coming to bring some topics and traffic to my art exhibition. I'll treat you to dinner. He didn't argue with me. He slowly stood up and said, "Okay. And I'll have to make you spend a lot. You go ahead and do your thing. See you tonight." After saying this, he was about to go out. Seeing this, having fulfilled my obsession, I also stood up to see him off. We walked side by side towards the door, but when his hand just touched the doorknob, he suddenly hugged me. I was instantly enveloped in a fresh and clean scent. Then I heard his gentle voice above my head. Finn smiled and said, "Aurora. Long time no see." I froze in place, my hand raised in the air, feeling awkward whether to hug him back or not. But in the end, I hugged him back with a smile. Finn let out a low sigh. "I'm also very glad to see you again." Just as I finished speaking, the door of the reception room was open from the outside, and a wheelchair was slowly pushed in. I came back to my senses and turned my head to look. In the silence, Noah's face darkened. Finn left first. The organizer enthusiastically introduced Noah to me. "Aurora. Noah has collected many of your works over the years, but his favorite is still The Girl's Thoughts. When he heard that you were coming to Jingsu, he specially came to visit. I remember your hometown is also Jingsu. You must have heard of President Noah." "Shut up and get out." Before the organizer could finish speaking, Noah, with a dark face, issued an order to leave. Hearing this, the organizer was taken aback, forced a smile, and then left. The large reception room was left with just the two of us, and the atmosphere dropped to freezing point without realizing it. Just as I came back to my senses and was about to speak, Noah asked me in a sinister tone, "Who was that man just now?" This feeling of being questioned wasn't pleasant, especially when it came from someone who had no relationship with me. I looked down at him infuriately, sitting in the wheelchair. "President Noah. I don't think I need to report my relationships to you. Do I? Aurora." He suddenly roared, which startled me. Seeing this, I became even more impatient and frowned at him. "If I had known it was you, I wouldn't have thought it was necessary to meet. Noah. You should leave." In my calm words, Noah's already ugly face now looked so angry that there were no words to describe it. After a long while, he took a deep breath as if making some kind of compromise. "You left without saying a word 3 years ago, and I've never stopped looking for you. Until you flew abroad. I rushed to the airport as fast as I could, but I got into a serious car accident on the way. I've been confined to a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I don't regret it. I just don't understand why you, who loved me so much, would leave without a word." Later, I had a very long dream, which seemed to be about our past life. In the dream, I did a lot of bad things to you, which even directly led to your tragic death. When I woke up, it took me a long time to come to my senses. But finally, I remembered that in my past life, I just wanted to scare you. After taking Mila abroad, I sent someone to let you out. But that person lost the key and was too afraid to tell me. By the time I found out, you had already. Later, I was so regretful that I sacrificed my life for you. Having said this, Noah looked at me with red eyes full of pain. "Aurora. I know why you suddenly gave up on me. You were reborn too, right? For a long time, I thought that my rebirth was just a dream. But today, when I heard that he had also been reborn, I only felt that fate was playing tricks on us. The story that had originally reached its conclusion has now opened a new chapter. Fortunately, heartfeltly, I won't turn back. I took a deep breath and looked at Noah helplessly. Noah. It was your improper driving that led to you being in a wheelchair now. It has nothing to do with me. So don't try to morally blackmail me. Secondly, since you already know what happened in the previous life, you should naturally understand that I will never forgive you. Noah's face turned pale. And he hurriedly asked, "This is clearly an opportunity given to us by God to start over." He clumsily pushed his wheelchair closer to me. And with trembling fingertips, he carefully grabbed my hand. "Aurora, this is God's punishment for me. Now that the punishment is enough, we can still go back to the way we were before, right? Over the years, I've been silently observing your whereabouts, and never dared to get close to you. But I know that if I don't take action, sooner or later you won't belong to me anymore." "You're wrong," I interrupted Noah coldly, shook off his hand, and took a step back. "Noah, I don't belong to anyone. I only belong to myself." Perhaps stung by my indifference, the emotions in Noah's eyes became extremely complex. He opened and closed his mouth several times as if he wanted to say something but couldn't utter a word. I took a deep breath and looked at him again, saying calmly, "I saved you only because Uncle Noah and Auntie gave me support and cultivation after my parents passed away. So I'm grateful to them. The debt I owed to your Noah family was paid off the moment I saved you. So we'll just be strangers from now on." With that, I picked up the bag on the sofa and walked outside. As I passed by Noah, he grabbed my wrist again, lowered his head, and said sorrowfully, "Aurora, I know you love me. You're just blaming me. So saying these words won't shake my determination to beg for your forgiveness. I was too cowardly to approach you before. But from now on, I will definitely show you my determination." I was at a loss for words. I pulled out my hand and walked out without looking back. After dinner, when we came out of the restaurant, Finn and I went straight to the garage. During that time, he was still wearing a mask and sunglasses, which I specifically told him to do. After all, he has already publicly expressed his liking for my works on social media. If he were to be photographed having a private dinner with a girl by his fans or paparazzi, it would definitely cause an explosive news story. After getting into the car, he took off his sunglasses and mask. "This restaurant still tastes the same as before. Tomorrow I'll take you." "No need." Before he could finish, I refused him first. Hearing this, Finn was taken aback for a moment. Then he smiled and joked, "What? Are you afraid that I can't afford a meal? You used to tell me often that you missed the food in our country when you were abroad. Why don't you seem to miss it now that you're back?" I was silent for a moment and said helplessly, "You're a big star. Aren't you afraid of being photographed and getting involved in a scandal? Let it be. Anyway, having fulfilled my obsession, I haven't been in a scandal yet," he said inferiorly and started the car directly, leaving the parking lot. I didn't know where Finn was taking me. Leaning back on the seat and looking at the receding street scenery, I couldn't help but feel that I had really been away from here for 3 years. The black Bentley finally stopped by a lake that was far from the city center. The lights by the lake on a summer night were not very bright, and people coming and going were either sitting or walking, enjoying the evening breeze. Finn opened the door and got out of the car, then quickly walked to the passenger side and opened the door. "Get out of the car." I was taken aback for a moment, but I finally got out of the car. He was going to take me for a stroll by the lake. I looked at the people around me with some concern and whispered, "Why don't you put on your mask again? Just in case you're recognized." Seeing that I was quite insistent, Finn didn't refuse me. He took out the mask from his pocket and put it on. We walked side by side on the path. There were families with children playing, friends frolicking and joking, and couples holding hands passing by. In this natural environment, I gradually let go of the anxiety in my heart. "Let's go for a walk by the lake." At Finn's suggestion, we walked towards the lake together. The lights here were even dimmer, and the uneven stone road was not easy to walk on, so I almost fell several times. When I tripped over a stone again, I staggered and almost fell to the ground. Unexpectedly, just as I was about to fall, a large hand with distinct knuckles suddenly wrapped around my waist. "Be careful." Finn's concerned voice rang out, and I also instinctively grabbed his clothes during that movement. Time seemed to freeze at that moment. In the dim light, our eyes met in the air, and the ambiguous hormones spread freely in the place we couldn't see. Until my stopped heart started beating again. I averted my gaze and stood steady. That was close. I almost fell. I said to myself a bit awkwardly. Then pulled out my hand and walked forward on my own. But the stone road was still difficult to walk on. This time, however, Finn stubbornly took my hand. I was stunned and turned to look at him. Even through the mask, I could feel the smile on his face. His eyes curved as he said, "Don't worry, Aurora. No one will find me here." As he spoke, he raised his other hand and pointed at his mask. "After all, I'm obediently following your words." Hearing this, I sighed and smiled. I really can't do anything about you. That night, Finn and I sat by the lake and talked a lot. Even though we were facing each other, we still had so much to talk about. This made me unconsciously think of the lonely and boring 3 years I spent studying in Germany. In fact, Finn did bring me a certain sense of companionship and emotional value. I thought it was a night that only we knew about, until the photos of Finn holding my waist and us holding hands, and walking towards the riverside topped the trending searches. In an instant, a flood of related topics entered the public's view. Before Finn could come to me, Noah came to my door first. When he knocked on the door of my hotel room, I was really shocked. "How did you know I'm staying here?" I saw Noah, his face full of anger, maneuvering his wheelchair and walking straight past me into the room. I closed my eyes helplessly, closed the door, and walked in. Just as I was about to speak again, with a bang, Noah knocked all the cups on the table in front of him to the ground, then let out a low sigh. His eyes red with anger, he turned to look at me. "What's your relationship with him?" "Aurora, don't forget that you're my fiancée," he roared. But his body couldn't help shaking. I didn't understand why he was so angry. I looked at him calmly and said, "I'm not your fiancée anymore. Noah, I know you have the ability to easily find out where I am. Since you're so curious about my relationship with him, you can just investigate it yourself. Now get out of my room immediately." I saw his hand hanging by his side clenched tightly, making a creaking sound. We stared at each other in a tense standoff for a long time. Then, Noah suddenly laughed. "Aurora, you're still as disobedient as before. No matter what your relationship is. If he dares to have the slightest improper thought about you, I can make him lose everything he has now." Such threatening words might have had some effect on me before, but now they pose no threat to me at all. I looked at him with a cold expression and sneered. "Noah, you're still so self-righteous. Even if you can make him lose everything, it can't change the current situation at all. I will only hate you more than before." "You said, you hate me?" These words seemed to sting his heart. Noah repeated them sadly, and finally lowered his head and smiled bitterly. "Aurora, I've known you for more than 20 years, and I've never heard you say that you hate me. I know you're still angry with me about what happened in the previous life, but I haven't done anything to sorry you in this life. Our relationship is still the same as before. Even if you're really angry, considering my current miserable state and the feelings we've had growing up together for so many years, can't you give me another chance?" As he spoke, he took a deep breath, as if making a certain determination. "As long as you're willing, we can get married immediately. Aurora, I love you, but I don't want to marry you anymore. Moreover, you're not worthy of my love now." I told him the answer coldly. Just then, let on a low sigh. My phone rang. Noah and I both looked in the direction of the sound. The name Lucas lit up on the phone screen. We haven't been in touch for a long time, and I don't know what he wants. But I still picked up the phone and answered it in front of Noah. "Aurora, you're doing big things in secret. You managed to win over a man like Finn. Why were you so obsessed with that arrogant Noah in the early years? But you're really not being kind. You didn't even come to play with me when you returned to Jingsu. Are you free to go out and have fun tonight? I'll throw a welcome back party for you." Before I could say anything, Noah maneuvered his wheelchair in front of me, snatched my phone, and said coldly, "Lucas, Do you want to die? As soon as Lucas heard his voice, he hung up the phone without even taking a breath, as if he had seen a ghost. Before Noah could return the phone to me, the doorbell of the hotel suddenly rang. He and I both looked towards the door. Then we heard Finn's deep voice outside. He seemed to have rushed here and was slightly out of breath. Aurora, I have something to tell you. Upon hearing this, Noah gave a sinister laugh. So he's really fallen for you. The moment the hotel door opened, Finn saw Noah at a glance. He was stunned for a moment. And then he came back to his senses and said, Sorry. I didn't know you had a friend here. But before I could speak, Noah said in a sarcastic tone, Aurora and I aren't just friends. She's my Fang Key. Finn was naturally shocked by his claim of sovereignty. He frowned and looked at me. Although he didn't ask anything, the evenness in his eyes was palpable. I took a deep breath and looked at Noah warily. If you keep pestering me like this, I swear you'll never get the result you want. Noah, I never want to see you again. After saying this, I pulled Finn out of the door. Behind us came Noah's roar. Aurora, don't go. I'm sorry. I was wrong. But I'm just so afraid of losing you. Please come back. Please. With a bang, I heard the sound of him falling out of the wheelchair. Even without looking, I knew how embarrassed he must be now. But I still didn't soften my heart and walked forward firmly. Just like I did 3 years ago. I took Finn to the rooftop. Even there, I was afraid that another sneak a photo incident would occur. I let go of his hand, frowned, and said angrily, Finn, let out a low sigh. Where's your PR team? Why didn't you deal with this emergency first? Do you know that such rumors can affect you? Are you concerned about me? Before I could finish, Finn smiled. There was even a hint of anticipation in his question. I've known for a long time that he has feelings for me. Being liked by someone so well known is both amazing and stressful. So I've always been reluctant to break through this barrier. I admit that I'm happy when I'm with him and chatting with him. But if I have to be on guard against being photographed every time I go out, it's not what I want. Thinking of this, I finally mustered up the courage to tell him. Finn, let out a low sigh. We're not from the same world. You can tell from the fact that I paint under a pseudonym that I'm not someone who likes to expose everything about myself to the public. I know you like me. But we're not meant to be. Let's stop contacting each other from today. I'll continue to paint in obscurity. And you can go back to being a shining star. I don't agree. He refused me firmly. Still smiling. Aurora. In this false and lying world, I've only told you the truth. If I don't have you, I'll never tell the truth again. I didn't know how to answer him. My mood was extremely complicated because I found that I couldn't say anything more hurtful or heartless. Finn always smiles at me. And every harsh word I want to say gets stuck in my throat when I see that smile. A gust of wind blew, lifting my hair. He lowered his eyes, stepped closer, and helped me fix my hair. I know this has put pressure on you. But I don't want to be timid anymore. Before coming to see you, I considered announcing that I'm pursuing you. But I knew those people would dig into your identity. So I held back. Aurora, I know you don't dislike me. So can you give me a chance and try to like me? Listening to his gentle confession, my heart couldn't help but stir. But in the end, I still took a step back and shook my head. The road ahead is long. We both have a long way to go. I looked up at him, and an inexplicable sadness welled up in my heart. Finn, let out a low sigh. I don't want you to give up anything for me. And likewise, I won't break my own rules for you. Let's never meet again. After saying this, I quickly averted my gaze and turned my back to him. He didn't say anything and just stared at my back for a long time. It wasn't until Finn disappeared that I looked up and slowly closed my eyes, trying to calm down my emotions. He's a really good person. It's just a pity that we met at the wrong time. The week passed quickly, and I was about to leave for the next stop to continue the art exhibition. The night before I left, I received a call from Noah's mother. She hesitated for a long time on the other end of the phone before saying, Aurora, I know you and Noah can't go back to the way it was. But he suffered from severe mental illness since the car accident. He hasn't been able to let go of you all these years. Last night. He even tried to commit suicide. At this point, Noah's mother started sobbing. As your aunt, I'm begging you. Come to the hospital and see Noah. Right now. He won't listen to anything my husband and I say. The only person he wants to see is you. He's our only child. And I don't want to lose him. Hearing her crying, despite all my helplessness and resistance, I finally decided to go to the hospital to visit Noah. As soon as Noah's parents saw me, they treated me like a savior. They held my hands and pleaded with me to persuade him and give him the will to leave. I pushed open the door of the ward. Noah was leaning against the bed, staring blankly out the window. After a long while, he said hoarsely, "Mom, I want to be alone." I didn't say anything. I walked into the ward step by step and sat on the sofa next to his bed. I said I want to be alone. He suddenly whirred angrily. But the moment he turned his head and saw me, the anger in his eyes disappeared completely. Noah looked a little embarrassed. He opened and closed his mouth several times before asking, "My mom asked you to come, right?" I nodded. "If I didn't feel sorry for your mom, I wouldn't see you again even if you died." Hurt by my cold words, Noah could only laugh self-deprecating lie. "How much do you hate me? You used to love me so much. How can you be so heartless now? Aurora, you've changed." Of course I've changed. I picked up his words and said emotionless lie. If I hadn't changed, I would have ended up dead in a tragic way. Noah, when you were kidnapped and your life was in danger, I became the hostage of the gangsters in your place to save your life. But you'll never know what I went through during those days of being kidnapped. They locked me in a basement with no light at all. I kept waiting for someone to save me. But no one came. They beat me, cursed at me, whipped me with belts, and made me crawl on the ground like a dog. At that time, I wasn't afraid because I knew I had saved you. And you or your parents would come to save me. I know you've always looked down on me because you thought I was defiled. Even if we got married, your heart wasn't with me. But I developed claustrophobia because of saving you. And in the end, I died in the situation I feared the most. Noah, you'll never understand that kind of fear. Even if I live my life all over again, I won't forget it." As I spoke, I slowly stood up and let out a long sigh. "So whether you threaten me with suicide or play the victim with your disability, I don't care. I just want to never see you again for the rest of my life." Noah's expression was so despair that he couldn't speak. He could only shed silent tears. I didn't say anything more and got up to leave. Just as I turned around, I heard him say in a hoarse and painful voice, "Aurora, I'm sorry." I didn't respond and left the room. I think Noah won't pester me anymore. The homecoming art exhibition went very smoothly and finally came to a perfect end after half a year of busy work. After finishing my studies in Germany, I returned to China and bought a house in Yincheng, a small town with beautiful scenery and spring-like weather all year round. I continued my life of painting every day. One day, I went out to sketch. On my way home, it suddenly started to rain heavily. So I found a small pavilion to take shelter from the rain and sat there playing with my phone. I haven't contacted Finn in the past 6 months. But whenever I think our story has ended, he always liked the paintings I post or share my life moments on his social media. Gradually, a group of netizens and fans, whom I don't know where they came from, started shipping him and the famous painter Rose. Thinking of this, I somehow clicked into Finn's Weibo. And I saw that his IP address had changed from Jingsu to Yancheng at some point. An inexplicable feeling stirred in my heart. Noah knew that I developed my illness while saving him. But he still cruelly locked me in the place I feared the most. I didn't start walking home until the rain stopped. The clouds in the sky gradually darkened, and the quaint town was lit up by dim lights. There were still traces of rain on the stone road. I walked along the road to the depths of the alley. That's where my home is. When I reached the door, I found a tall figure standing in front of my house. When he heard the sound, he turned around. Finn and I met each other's gaze. We stared at each other in silence for a long time. Then he smiled and said, "Aurora, long time no see." At that moment, my heart, which had been silent for so long, started beating uncontrollably. After refusing Finn, I actually regretted it. Constantly thinking about someone is the best answer. But fortunately, having fulfilled he was standing in front of me now. All I had to do was reach out. And I could hug him. And that's exactly what I did. When I hugged Finn, I could clearly feel his trembling body. He hugged me tightly, as if he had found a precious treasure, and sobbed on my shoulder. Aurora. I finally waited for this moment. The next second, hot tears fell on my shoulder. It turned out that waiting for my love was something that made him so excited. 3 months later, the top-tier movie star Finn announced his relationship with the famous painter Rose. And everyone congratulated him on getting his wish. I also stopped hiding and posted photos of us together. After all, I've already done many brave things. And being brave one more time isn't so hard. The end. Lynn suddenly sat up in bed, gasping for breath. Her forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat. And there was still a lingering look of horror and confusion in her eyes. She instinctively looked around. A familiar yet somewhat strange layout of the room made her freeze in an instant. This was her boudoir before marriage. But she clearly remembered that she had just been struggling in that suffocating marriage with Sean. How could she have suddenly returned here? She trembled with her hands and pinched herself hard. The excruciating pain finally made her believe that she had been reborn. Reborn on the eve of her engagement to Sean, the battalion commander, and her fiancé. Lynn's eyes gradually changed from confusion to determination. And the memories of her previous life came flooding back like a tide. Those pains and grievances that she had buried deep in her heart resurfaced once again. In her previous life, as a battalion commander, Sean was always busy with military affairs and paid no attention to the affairs at home. Her mother-in-law was even more overbearing and picked at her in every way. She disliked Lynn for not being able to take care of the family and for not having a child to carry on the Sean family line as soon as possible. Lynn endured everything silently and tried her best to manage the household. But what she got in return was their even more excessive behavior. At a family gathering, Lynn carefully prepared a table full of delicious food. However, just because one dish didn't suit her mother-in-law's taste, her mother-in-law scolded her in public for nearly half an hour. Lynn looked at Sean, hoping that he could say something fair. But Sean just frowned and said softly to her, "Mom is getting old. You should just indulge her more." At that moment, Lynn's heart completely cooled down. Later, Lynn got pregnant. She was full of joy, thinking that she could finally welcome a happy turn in her life. But Sean still rarely came home, and her mother-in-law didn't take care of her at all. Instead, because of some minor discomforts during pregnancy, her mother-in-law accused her of being delicate. When she needed the most company and care, she could only face the empty room and endless loneliness on her own. What made her even more desperate was that when she was about to give birth, Sean couldn't be by her side because of an urgent military task. She was in excruciating pain in the delivery room, while her mother-in-law was complaining outside the delivery room that she was being too sentimental and delaying her son's future. When she finally gave birth to the baby with great difficulty, what she waited for was not the care of her family, but her mother-in-law's dissatisfaction with the baby's gender and Sean's indifference. After the baby was born, Lynn's life didn't get any better. She had to take care of the baby and endure her mother-in-law's harass. Sean occasionally came home, but he just took a quick look at the baby and didn't say a single word of comfort to her. On countless nights, Lynn held the baby and wept silently. She didn't know when this kind of life would come to an end. And the root cause of all this started with this marriage. If she hadn't married Sean in the first place, perhaps her life would have been completely different. Lynn clenched her fists and secretly swore in her heart that in this life, she would never make the same mistake again. She must bravely give up this engagement and start a brand new life of her own. Lynn got up and walked to the window. Looking at the familiar street outside, her mind was filled with thoughts. She knew that it would not be easy to get rid of this engagement. Sean was also a well-known figure in the local area, and his family had a certain influence. But she was no longer the cowardly and submissive Lynn of her previous life. She was going to fight for her own future. She began to re-examine her life and the interpersonal relationships around her. Her parents had always loved her very much. But in her previous life, she had been so carried away by love that she had ignored her parents' feelings. In this life, she would spend more time with her parents and no longer make them worry about her. As for her friends, Lynn thought of her best friend Shine. In her previous life, when she was in the most pain, Shine had comforted and encouraged her many times. But because of Sean, she had gradually drifted apart from Shine. This time, she would cherish this friendship. Lynn took a deep breath. She knew that the road ahead was full of uncertainties and challenges. But she was not afraid at all. She was going to rely on her own efforts to find her own happiness and value. Whether in her career or in her relationship, she was going to start over and no longer be controlled by others. On this day, cutting fulfilled my obsession. Lynn dressed up carefully and went to the CAF where she had made an appointment with Sean. She arrived a little early and sat in a corner seat. Her heart was a little nervous. But more of it was determination. After a while, Sean walked in his military uniform, looking dashing. When he saw Lynn, a smile appeared on his face and he walked straight towards her. Lynn let out a low sigh. "What made you think of asking me out today?" Sean asked gently, reaching out to hold Lynn's hand. Lynn slightly turned sideways to avoid his hand and looked at him with a serious expression. "Sean, I want to tell you something." Sean sensed Lynn's unusual mood and was a bit puzzled in his heart. But he still smiled and said, "What is it? You look so serious." Lynn took a deep breath and summoned up the courage to say, "Sean, I want to cancel our engagement." Sean's smile froze on his face instantly. He widened his eyes, unable to believe what he had heard. Lynn, you must be joking, right? Why are you suddenly saying you want to cancel the engagement?" Lynn looked at him, with no hint of joking in her eyes. "I'm not joking. I've thought about it for a long time. We're not suitable for each other. And I don't want to continue with this engagement." Sean frowned. He couldn't understand why Lynn would suddenly have such an idea. Lynn, haven't we been getting along well? Is there something I did wrong? Tell me, and I can change it." Lynn sneered. "Getting along well? You're in the military all year round. How much have you taken care of the things at home? Do you know what kind of life I've been living in your family?" Sean was silent for a while and then said slowly, "I know I've been lacking in taking care of the family. But I'm a soldier. And I have my responsibilities. I thought you could understand me." "Understand? I understand you. But who will understand me?" Lynn's voice became a bit excited. "When you're not at home. Your mother has been making things difficult for me in every way. I've endured it all alone. And have you ever said a word for me?" Sean opened his mouth, wanting to defend himself. But he didn't know what to say. Lynn continued, "I don't want to live like this anymore. I want freedom and a life of my own." Sean's face turned a bit ugly. He realized that Lynn was serious this time. Lynn, you can't be so impulsive. Our engagement is already a done deal. This doesn't just concern the two of us, but also our two families." Lynn looked at him firmly. "I know there will be a lot of difficulties. But I've already made up my mind. I don't want to sacrifice my whole life because of this so-called engagement." Sean looked at Lynn, and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. "Lynn, what you're doing will make me very embarrassed and will also disappoint my family. Have you considered the consequences?" Lynn didn't back down at all. "I'm only considering my own life. I don't want to be bound by you anymore." The two of them reached an impasse, and the atmosphere in the CAF became extremely oppressive. After a long time, Sean said slowly, "Lynn, I'll give you some time to calm down. I don't believe you'll really give up our feelings of so many years." Lynn shook her head. "I don't need to calm down. My decision won't change." After saying that, Lynn stood up and left the CAF without looking back. Sean looked at her departing figure, feeling mixed emotions in his heart. He couldn't understand why Lynn, who used to be gentle and obedient, had suddenly become so determined. When Lynn walked out of the CAF, tears welled up in her eyes. But she held them back. She knew that this was just the first step, and there were more challenges waiting for her. But she had no regrets. She believed that as long as she persevered, she would definitely be able to find a way of her own. The news that Lynn had proposed to cancel the engagement spread like wildfire in both families, causing quite a stir. Sean returned home in a daze. His mother, Yvonne, could tell at a glance that something was wrong with her son. Ranner. What's wrong with you? Did you have a quarrel with Lynn? Sean sat down on the sofa feebly, holding his head in his hands. After a long silence, he said slowly, Mom, Lynn wants to cancel the engagement. What? Yvonne widened her eyes, and her voice suddenly rose several octaves. Why would she do that? Does she have another man outside? Sean shook his head. She didn't say. She just said that we're not suitable. And she wants freedom and doesn't want to live like this anymore. Yvonne was so angry that she paced back and forth in the living room. This is simply outrageous. Our Sean family is a well-respected family in this city. Does she think she can cancel the engagement just as she pleases? What does she take our Sean family for? Sean frowned, also filled with confusion and anger in his heart. He thought he had always treated Lynn quite well. Although he couldn't be with her often because of his military duties, he had also provided her with a good material life and a proper status. He really couldn't figure out why Lynn would suddenly make such a decision. Mom, don't be angry. I want to talk to Lynn again. Maybe she's just being impulsive. Sean tried to comfort his mother. Talk? What's there to talk about? Since she has the audacity to propose canceling the engagement, she must give our Sean family an explanation, Yvonne said with a furious expression. At the same time, Lynn returned home. Her parents were heartbroken when they saw her red and swollen eyes. Lynn, what's wrong? Did Sean bully you? Lynn's mother, Helen, took her hand and asked. Lynn threw herself into her mother's arms and burst into tears. After crying for a while, she raised her head and told her parents everything about her rebirth and the suffering she had endured in the Sean family in her previous life. Helen and her husband, Zenan, were shocked after hearing this. They never expected that their daughter had lived such a miserable and wronged life in the Sean family. Lynn, what of? Since you've made up your mind, then be brave and do it. No matter what happens, Mom and Dad will support you, Zenan said firmly. With her parents' support, Lynn became even more determined in her heart. However, she also knew that the Sean family wouldn't let it go so easily. Sure enough, the next day, Sean and his mother, Yvonne, came to the Zenan family. Lynn out, come out here, Yvonne shouted as soon as she entered the door. Lynn took a deep breath, walked out of the room, and faced Yvonne's anger directly. Lynn, hading Fulsheldman, why on earth do you want to cancel the engagement? You brought shame to our Sean family. Yvonne pointed at Lynn's nose and scolded her. Lynn looked at her calmly. Auntie, I already told Sean yesterday that we're not suitable. And I don't want to continue with this engagement. Not suitable? What were you doing earlier? Now that the wedding date is almost here, you say we're not suitable? Are you deliberately trying to embarrass our Sean family? Yvonne became more and more agitated as she spoke. Auntie, I didn't mean that. I just don't want to force myself anymore to live an unhappy married life. Lynn tried her best to keep her voice calm. Unhappy? In what way is Ranner not good enough for you? He's a battalion commander with a bright future. Would he treat you badly if you were with him? Yvonne widened her eyes, looking utterly disbelieving. Auntie, Linashasa and Meyer. Marriage is not just about material things and status. It also requires companionship and understanding. Sean has been in the army all year round, and he's never there when I need him. This kind of marriage is not what I want. Lynn looked Yvonne straight in the eyes and voiced her innermost thoughts. You're just being unreasonable. Yvonne was momentarily at a loss for words by what Lynn had said. At this moment, Sean stepped forward, looked at Lynn and said, Lynn, hadn't fulfilled my intention. I know I haven't been good enough in terms of family matters before, but I can change. Can you give me another chance? Lynn shook her head. Sean, some things can't be solved just by changing. I've already thought it through, and I don't want to turn back. A trace of pain flashed in Sean's eyes. Lynn, are you really so heartless? Don't you care at all about our feelings of all these years? Lynn's heart stirred slightly, but the painful memories of her past life quickly brought her back to her senses. Sean, feelings can't be the reason for me to keep enduring the pain. I don't want to make the same mistakes again. Seeing that her son's plea was in vain, Yvonne started to act out. Lynn, if you dare to break off the engagement, our Sean family won't let you off. We're a well-respected family in this city, and you won't be able to stay here in the future. Lynn's parents stood up in anger when they heard this. Yvonne, don't go too far. Your Sean family may be great, but our Xylon family isn't to be bullied either. It's Lynn's freedom to break off the engagement, and you have no right to interfere. Xenon said angrily. Let's wait and see then. Yvonne snorted coldly, grabbed Sean and turned to lead the Xenon family. Lynn looked at their retreating figures. Feeling a mix of emotions in her heart, she knew that this turmoil over the broken engagement had just begun. In the following days, the Xenon family encountered all sorts of troubles. Lynn's father's business partners all proposed to terminate their contracts, citing the reason that they didn't want to offend the Sean family. Some of the Xenon family's relatives and friends also started to distance themselves, fearing that they would be implicated. Lynn felt extremely guilty. She thought that she had dragged her family down. But her parents comforted her, telling her not to worry. As long as the family was together, there was no difficulty that couldn't be overcome. Although Sean was rejected by Lynn, he still couldn't let go of her. He started to inquire about Lynn's news everywhere, wanting to know why she had suddenly become so determined. In the process, he found that Lynn had started to have frequent contacts with some business people and seemed to be plotting something. Sean was puzzled and decided to find an opportunity to have a good talk with Lynn again. One day, he blocked her at the entrance of a bookstore that Lynn often went to. Lynn, can we talk? Sean looked at Lynn with a hint of exhaustion in his eyes. Lynn hesitated for a moment but still nodded. They walked into a CIF next to the bookstore and found a secluded place to sit down. Lynn, I know the Xenon family has encountered some troubles recently, and I'm really sorry. This wasn't my intention. Sean broke the silence first. Lynn looked at him. Sean, whether it was your intention or not, these troubles were all caused by me. I will find a way to solve them. Lynn, why are you so persistent in breaking off the engagement? What exactly are you plotting? Sean couldn't help but ask. Lynn was silent for a while and then said slowly. Sean, I want to start my own business. I don't want to be just a military spouse for the rest of my life, waiting at home for my husband to come back. I have my own dreams and pursuits. Sean frowned. I don't object to you starting a business, but that doesn't affect our engagement, does it? No. Sean, you don't understand. What I want is freedom and an equal marital relationship. In your Sean family, I will always be just an accessory. And I don't want to live that kind of life. Lynn's eyes revealed a firm determination. Sean looked at Lynn, and he suddenly realized that the woman in front of him was no longer the Lynn he used to know. She had become more independent and assertive. Lynn, I respect your decision, but I still hope you can think about it again. After all, we have so many wonderful memories, Sean said helplessly. Lynn shook her head. Sean, the past is in the past. I don't want to go back to the way it was before. Sean gave Lynn a deep look and then stood up. Okay, Lynn, I won't pester you anymore. But if you encounter any difficulties, you can come to me at any time. With that, Sean turned and left the CAF. Lynn watched his retreating figure and felt a sense of relief in her heart. She knew that she had finally gotten rid of Sean's pestering. But the road ahead was still full of challenges. She had to work hard to achieve her dreams and let her family live a good life. After breaking off the engagement, Lynn was well aware that she couldn't immerse herself in the past disputes and pain any longer and must find a way to stand on her own as soon as possible, with the memories and experience from her past life. She keenly spotted a business field that was overlooked by many but actually had great potential at the moment: e-commerce of unique handicrafts. Lynn began her busy and fulfilling preparatory journey. First, she threw herself wholeheartedly into an in-depth investigation of various unique handicrafts. She walked through the streets and alleys of the city, searching for those small handicraft shops hidden in the corners, communicating face-to-face with the craftsmen, and learning about their creative inspirations, production techniques, and the cultural stories behind them. Every exquisite handicraft was like a unique soul, exuding a charming appeal. which made Lynn even more convinced of her choice. In the process of finding suitable handicraft suppliers, Lynn encountered a lot of difficulties. Some craftsmen were skeptical about the e-commerce channel, worrying that their works wouldn't get the due display and protection on the internet. Some other craftsmen were used to the traditional sales model and were reluctant to try new cooperation methods easily. But Lynn didn't give up. With her sincerity and patience, she explained the advantages and potential of e-commerce to the craftsmen time and time again, promising to provide them with comprehensive services and guarantees. There was an octogenarian paper cutting craftsman whose paper cutting works were extremely ingenious, and each piece contained profound traditional cultural heritage. When Lynn first visited him, the old man wasn't interested in e-commerce cooperation, thinking that it was something for young people and had nothing to do with his traditional paper cutting art. Lynn didn't lose heart. In the following days, she often brought some materials about successful e-commerce cases to the old man and introduced to him in detail how e-commerce could make traditional handicrafts reach a broader market and let more people know about and love them. She also took photos of the old man's paper cutting works herself, showcasing the charm of paper cutting art with beautiful pictures. Gradually, the old man was moved by Lynn's perseverance and enthusiasm and agreed to cooperate with her. In terms of learning e-commerce operation knowledge, Lynn made great efforts. She signed up for various online and offline e-commerce training courses. From basic store registration and page design to complex marketing promotion and customer service, she studied every knowledge point carefully and didn't let go of any detail. During the day, she rushed between the handicraft market and suppliers. At night, when the whole city was immersed in tranquility, she still sat at the desk, facing the computer screen, studying e-commerce courses, practicing operation skills repeatedly, often staying up late into the night. The process of registering the store wasn't smooth sailing. Lynn needed to prepare all kinds of cumbersome materials, fill in a large number of forms, and also deal with the platform's review requirements. Sometimes, due to a small detail problem, the review would be rejected, and she had to revise the materials and submit them again. But Lynn always maintained patience and care. She knew that this was a crucial step to start her business and couldn't afford to be careless. Taking product pictures was also a very challenging task. In order to perfectly present the unique charm of handicrafts, Lynn bought professional photography equipment and learned photography techniques and image processing knowledge. She set up a simple photography studio in her room and used different lighting angles and shooting methods to take pictures of each handicraft repeatedly. To capture the texture and grain of a wood carving work, she spent an entire afternoon adjusting the lighting and angle countless times and taking hundreds of photos before finally selecting the most satisfactory one. Writing product descriptions also racked Lynn's brains. She knew that product descriptions were not just a simple introduction to the products, but also a bridge of communication with customers, which could directly affect customers' purchasing decisions. Therefore, when writing product descriptions, she fully explored the stories, production techniques, cultural connotations, and other elements behind each handicraft and presented them with vivid, and infectious language. For a hand-knitted blanket, she described it like this: this blanket was carefully knitted by folk craftsmen using the most traditional knitting method, taking several months to complete. Every stitch and every thread contains the efforts and emotions of the knitter, as if telling an ancient legend. When you gently touch it, you can feel the warmth and craftsmanship under the soft texture, as if being treated gently by time, leading you into a world full of the charm of handicraft art. During this difficult process, Lynn met Yoyo, a friend who also had a passion for e-commerce. Yoyo was a cheerful and optimistic girl who had some experience in e-commerce operation. They met at an e-commerce exchange event. At that time, Lynn was confused about some e-commerce operation issues, and Yoyo took the initiative to answer them for her. The two then had an in-depth conversation and found that they shared the same ideals and dreams and pursuits. Yoyo was moved by Lynn's tenacity and perseverance and decided to work together with her. They discussed e-commerce operation strategies together and shared their experiences and insights with each other. Yoyo had unique creativity and keen insight in store page design and marketing promotion. She helped Lynn design a simple, beautiful, beautiful, and distinctive store page and formulated a series of effective marketing promotion plans. With their joint efforts, Lin's handicraft e-commerce store gradually took shape. Although it hadn't officially opened yet, it had already attracted the attention and support of some craftsmen. They saw Lin's efforts and sincerity and believed that under her leadership, their handicrafts could shine brightly on the e-commerce platform. As the preparatory work continued to progress, Lin and Jiryo became busier and busier. They needed to conduct the final screening and arrangement of the store's products to ensure that each item listed on the shelves was of high quality and unique. At the same time, they also had to negotiate cooperation matters with logistics companies to ensure that the products could be safely and quickly delivered to customers. During this process, Lin also faced some pressure from her family. Although her parents supported her decision to start a business, they inevitably felt pity and worried when they saw how hard she was working and how busy she was. They were concerned that Lin's health might be affected due to overwork. And they were also worried that her entrepreneurial path would be full of obstacles and that she might ultimately fail. Lin understood her parents' feelings, and she proved her determination and ability to them with her actions. She told her parents that she had made full preparations and that no matter what difficulties she encountered, she would persevere. Finally, having fulfilled after months of meticulous preparation, Lin's handicraft e-commerce store welcomed the day of its opening. She and Jiryo arrived at the office early, nervously and excitedly waiting for the first order to come in. When the first ray of sunlight in the morning shone into the room and an order prompt message suddenly popped up on the computer screen. At that moment, Lin and Jiryo cheered with excitement. They hugged each other tightly, with tears glistening in their eyes. This was the result of their hard work and also a symbol of the beginning of their dreams. Lin was well aware that this was just the beginning, and the road ahead was still long, full of challenges and opportunities. But she was not afraid at all, because she believed that as long as she persevered and worked hard, she would definitely be able to carve out her own world in the e-commerce field of characteristic handicrafts, realize her own life value, and move towards a glorious life of self-reliance and strength. Under the careful operation of Lin and Jiryo, the handicraft e-commerce store rose like a new star in the business sky. In the first few months after its opening, the number of orders grew rapidly like a snowball. Lin was immersed in busy and fulfilling work every day. In the early morning, before the first ray of sunlight had fully pierced through the morning mist, she was already sitting in front of the computer, dealing with the order information accumulated from the previous night. She carefully checked the delivery address, contact information, and detailed information of the purchased products for each customer to ensure the accuracy of the orders. Subsequently, she immediately contacted the suppliers without delay, communicating about the inventory status of the products and the matters related to shipping, to ensure that the products could be shipped to customers in a timely manner. In terms of product packaging, Lin put in a great deal of effort. She knew that for handicrafts, packaging was not only to protect the products during transportation but also a way to showcase the brand image. Therefore, she carefully designed unique packaging gift boxes, adopting a simple and elegant style, matched with delicate ribbons and handwritten thank you cards, so that every customer who received the products could feel her full sincerity and care. In order to further enhance the store's popularity and influence, Lin actively participated in various e-commerce industry exhibitions and activities. She brought the store's main handicrafts and personally demonstrated and introduced them to the visitors at the exhibitions. Her confident and professional explanations, as well as the unique charm of the handicrafts themselves, attracted the attention of many industry insiders and potential customers. At a large-scale e-commerce expo, there was a large crowd in front of Lin's booth. Many customers placed orders on the spot after learning about her store and products, and some merchants took the initiative to negotiate cooperation matters with her, hoping to act as agents for her products or carry out joint promotions. As the store's popularity continued to increase, Lin's business gradually got on track. However, just as she was fully committed to the development of her business, Sean's appearance brought a bit of disturbance to her peaceful life. After seeing that Lin was living a better life after leaving him, Sean had mixed feelings in his heart. Once, He thought that Lynn couldn't live without him and that she would fall into a difficult situation after leaving him. But the reality gave him a heavy blow. Lynn not only wasn't defeated by setbacks but also achieved remarkable success in her career. These feelings of loss and unwillingness gradually spread in his heart. One day, Lynn was busy dealing with work in the office when she suddenly received a call from Sean. On the other end of the phone, Sean's voice sounded a bit low. "Lynn, can we meet? I have something to say to you." Lynn hesitated for a moment. But considering that they had once had a relationship and that some things needed to be completely clarified, she agreed to his request for a meeting. They agreed to meet in a quiet tea house. When Lynn walked into the tea house, she saw Sean sitting in the corner, with a trace of fatigue and loneliness in his eyes. The once high-spirited battalion commander now looked rather haggard. "Lynn, you're here." Sean forced a smile when he saw Lynn. "Sean, what do you want to talk to me about?" Lynn got straight to the point. She didn't want to waste too much time on this matter because there was still a lot of work waiting for her to deal with in her store. Sean was silent for a while and then said slowly, Lynn, I'm really happy for you when I see your current achievements. But I have to admit that I don't feel good about it in my heart. I've been thinking that if I could have accompanied you more and understood you better back then, would we not have ended up like this?" Lynn looked at him, and her heart stirred slightly. But she quickly regained her calm. "Sean, let the past be the past. We should all look forward. But I find that I still can't forget you." There was a trace of affection in Sean's eyes. "Lynn, can we start over? I will change myself, take good care of you, and never let you be wronged again." Lynn gently shook her head. "Sean, I'm not the same person I used to be. My life is now filled with my career. I don't have the intention or energy to consider matters of the heart anymore. Moreover, the problems between us can't be solved simply by making changes." Sean's face turned a bit ugly. He seemed not to have expected that Lynn would refuse him so firmly. "Lynn, having fulfilled me, are you really so heartless? Is our relationship of so many years worthless in your eyes?" "Sean, I'm not heartless. I just clearly know what I want. What I want is independence, freedom, and the right to control my own life. And I didn't get these things in our previous relationship." Lynn looked straight into Sean's eyes and said firmly. Sean was silent. He knew that what Lynn said was the truth. In the past relationship, he had indeed ignored Lynn's feelings because of his work in the army, and had caused her a lot of pain. But he still didn't want to give up easily in his heart. Lynn, I know I was wrong before. But I hope you can give me another chance. Even if it's just to let me pursue you again. I will prove my change with my actions." There was a trace of pleading in Sean's tone. Lynn sighed. "Sean, I don't want to give you any illusions. It's over between us. I hope you can respect my decision and also respect my current life." After saying that, Lynn stood up and prepared to leave. Sean looked at her departing figure, filled with helplessness and pain in his heart. He knew that this time, Lynn really wouldn't look back. However, Sean didn't give up. He began to appear frequently in Lynn's life and approached her for various reasons. Sometimes, he would bring a bouquet of flowers to Lynn's office, saying that he was just passing by and wanted to see her. Sometimes, he would suddenly appear when Lynn was participating in business activities, and take the initiative to help her solve some small problems. Lynn was very troubled by this. She knew that Sean's actions would bring her a lot of unnecessary trouble, especially at a crucial moment in the development of her career. Her business partners and customers might have some misunderstandings because of Sean's frequent appearances, thinking that she was not focused enough in her relationship, which would affect her business image and cooperative relationships. Once, Lynn was negotiating cooperation matters with an important supplier when Sean suddenly burst into the meeting room. He was holding a document, saying that he had an important piece of information to show Lynn. The atmosphere in the meeting room suddenly became awkward, and the supplier's face showed a look of confusion. Lynn suppressed her anger and explained the situation to the supplier, and then pulled Sean outside. "Sean, what on earth are you doing? You're affecting my work like this," Lynn said angrily. Sean looked at her with an innocent face. Lynn, I just want to care about you. I see how hard you're working and want to share some of your burden. I don't need your care or your help. Please don't bother me like this anymore." After saying that, Lynn turned around and returned to the meeting room, leaving Sean standing there alone, looking lost and helpless. In addition to Sean's harassment, Lynn also faced other challenges in the development of her business. As the scale of the store continued to expand, competitors began to notice her existence and took some malicious attack measures. Some competitors spread rumors on the internet to slander Lynn's store and products. They claimed that Lynn's handicrafts were fake and shoddy products, which were purchased at a low price from some small workshops and then sold to customers at a high price. These rumors spread rapidly on the internet and had a great negative impact on Lynn's store. Many customers canceled their orders after seeing these rumors, and the store's sales volume also showed a significant decline. After learning the news, Lynn was very angry, but she didn't panic and dealt with it calmly. First, she collected all the evidence that could prove the authenticity and quality of the store's products, including the cooperation agreements signed with the craftsmen, the production process videos of the handicrafts, and the product quality inspection reports. Then, she issued a statement on the store's official website and social media platforms, explaining in detail the product sources and quality assurance measures of the store and giving a strong counterattack to the malicious rumors of the competitors. In order to regain the trust of customers, Lynn also launched a series of preferential activities and measures to upgrade after-sales service. She provided each customer who purchased products with a longer return and exchange guarantee period, as well as more considerate customer consultation services. At the same time, she invited some well-known handicraft experts and internet celebrity bloggers to visit and experience the store, and they shared positive comments and recommendations about the store's products on their social media accounts. Thanks to Lynn's efforts, the store gradually overcame this trust crisis. Customers saw Lynn's sincerity and hard work and began to place orders to buy products again. The store's sales also gradually resumed their growth trend. However, just when Lynn had just heaved a sigh of relief, another problem lay before her. Due to the sharp increase in the number of orders in the store, some unexpected problems occurred in the original supply chain. Some craftsmen couldn't complete the production of their works on time because of too many orders, resulting in the delay of product shipments. Some other suppliers encountered difficulties in raw material procurement and couldn't ensure the stability of raw material supply. Lynn realized that if the supply chain problems couldn't be solved in a timely manner, the development of the store would be severely restricted. Therefore, she decided to go to the locations of various suppliers and craftsmen in person to discuss solutions with them. She rushed between various cities and villages, communicating face-to-face with the craftsmen, understanding the difficulties they encountered in the production process, and providing corresponding help and support. She helped some craftsmen recruit temporary assistants, improving the production efficiency. At the same time, she also worked with suppliers to find new raw material procurement channels to ensure the stable supply of raw materials. Thanks to Lynn's efforts, the supply chain problems were effectively solved. The operation of the store also gradually returned to normal and continued to develop towards higher goals. In this process, Lynn kept growing and making progress. She learned how to stay calm and firm in the face of various difficulties and challenges, and how to make the right decisions in a complex business environment. Her career also gradually moved towards brilliance through her unremitting efforts. After going through many twists and turns, Lynn's e-commerce business finally ushered in a brand new and exciting opportunity. With her unique business vision and unremitting efforts, she successfully obtained a precious opportunity to participate in a large-scale handicraft exhibition. This exhibition brought together many top handicraft brands and creators at home and abroad, and it was an excellent platform in the industry to showcase strength, expand business, and increase popularity. In order to stand out at the exhibition, Lynn devoted all her energy and efforts to the preparation. She carefully selected the most representative handicrafts in the store that best reflected the charm of traditional Chinese culture, and each piece had been strictly checked and meticulously polished by her and her team. In terms of booth design, she invited professional designers, combining with the style characteristics of the handicrafts. They created a simple, elegant, and modern exhibition space. The booth was mainly made of wooden structures, with soft lighting and exquisite display racks, setting off the handicrafts more exquisitely, as if bringing every visitor into a handicraft palace full of artistic atmosphere. During the intense process of preparing for the exhibition, Lynn met the talented designer Lucas. Lucas was somewhat famous in the design world, and his works were known for their unique creativity and exquisite craftsmanship. By chance, Lucas saw the handicrafts in Lynn's store, was deeply attracted by them, and took the initiative to contact Lynn, expressing his willingness to design an exclusive series for her products. After the two met, they had a pleasant conversation. In the communication, they found that they both had a high passion and unique insights into art and handicrafts, and soon established a good cooperative relationship. During the cooperation process, Lucas deeply understood the brand concept and customer needs of Lynn's store. Combining with his own design inspiration, he created a series of amazing handicraft design plans. He skillfully integrated traditional handicraft elements with modern fashion and design concepts. The designed works not only retained the original charm of the handicrafts but also met the aesthetic needs of current consumers. Lynn spoke highly of Lucas's design plans, and she saw the huge potential and infinite possibilities that these designs would bring to the store. As the cooperation deepened, a subtle feeling gradually developed between the two in their work. Lucas was deeply touched by Lynn's tenacity, wisdom, and dedication to her career. He always paid silent attention to Lynn and didn't hesitate to offer a helping hand when she encountered difficulties. And Lynn also had a good impression of Lucas's talent, tenderness, and thoughtfulness. In the communication with him, she felt an unprecedented spiritual connection. However, just when Lynn's career and relationship were gradually moving to a new stage, Sean learned that she had a new suitor by her side. This news made the jealousy and unwillingness in Sean's heart erupt like a volcano. He couldn't accept the fact that Lynn had completely left his life and started a new relationship. Therefore, he decided to take more crazy actions to win Lynn back. Sean began to use his personal connections to take some actions that seemed to be helpful, but were actually interfering with Lynn's store and business. Through some relationships, he tried to influence Lynn's cooperation with suppliers and created difficulties for her raw material procurement. He also spread unfavorable remarks about Lynn's store in some business occasions, trying to damage her business reputation. These actions brought a lot of trouble to Lynn's career, and she had to spend more time and energy to deal with these sudden crises. At an important business cooperation negotiation meeting, a large enterprise that had originally reached a preliminary cooperation intention with Lynn suddenly changed its attitude and refused to cooperate with her. Lynn later learned that Sean had used his connections behind the scenes to put pressure on this enterprise. This made Lynn very angry. She realized that Sean had fallen into a nearly crazy state and was willing to do whatever it took to achieve his goal. Facing Sean's crazy entanglement, Lynn was caught in a dilemma in her emotional choice. On one side was her old love Sean, who had hurt her in the past but was now persistent in winning her back. Although his actions made her feel troubled and angry, it was undeniable that they had once had a deep relationship, and those memories would still come to her mind at certain moments. On the other side was her new love Lucas, who shared the same ideals with her and brought her warmth and support. His appearance made her feel the beauty of love and the possibility of happiness again, and he also gave her great help and inspiration in her career. Lynn, why did you think of asking me out today?" Sean asked gently and reached out to hold Lynn's hand. Exhibition explanation. In this difficult moment, Lynn's parents and her good friend Yo-Yo became her strong backing. Her parents felt extremely distressed when they saw their daughter so pained and torn. They told Lynn that no matter what choice she made, they would support her and only hope that she could be happy. Yo-Yo analyzed the advantages and disadvantages for her from the perspective of a friend. She reminded Lynn to think calmly, not to be carried away by emotions, and to consider her career and future development. After countless days and nights of thinking, Lynn finally gradually sorted out her emotional thoughts. She realized that she couldn't be bound by the past relationship anymore, nor could she give up the pursuit of true happiness out of fear. She decided to face Sean bravely and completely solve the problems between them. Lynn asked Sean to meet, and the meeting place was chosen in the park where they had their first date. When Sean arrived at the park and saw Lynn standing by the lake, He felt a mix of emotions in his heart. Sean. Let's make things clear today. Lynn looked at Sean with a determined gaze. Lenny. I know my previous actions were a bit extreme. But it's all because I love you so much. Come back to me. And I will change. Sean said eagerly. Sean. We can't go back. The past relationship is over. Your entanglement will only make me hate you more. I have my own life. My own career. And a new relationship now. I hope you can respect my choice and let go. Lynn said calmly. When Sean heard Lynn's words, his face turned pale. Lynn let out a low sigh. Are you really so heartless? Aren't you afraid that I'll do something even more excessive? Sean. If you really loved me, you wouldn't threaten me in this way. I'm not the cowardly person I used to be. I will bravely face everything. If you continue like this, I will take legal measures to protect myself. Lynn said without flinching. Sean looked at Lynn. He saw firmness and determination in her eyes. He knew that he had completely lost Lynn. And no matter what he did, he couldn't win her back. His heart was filled with pain and regret, but in the end, he reluctantly lowered his head. Lynn let out a low sigh. I respect your choice. I hope you can be happy in the future, Sean said, turned around, and slowly left the park. After solving the problem with Sean, Lynn felt greatly relieved. She turned around and threw herself into the final preparations for the exhibition, making the final sprint with Lucas for the upcoming grand event. The exhibition finally opened grandly. There was a large crowd in front of Lynn's booth. The handicrafts she carefully selected and the exclusive series designed by Lucas were warmly sought after by the visitors. Many domestic and foreign purchasers came to negotiate cooperation matters one after another, and the media also widely reported on Lynn's store and products. Lynn's career achieved great success at the exhibition, and her brand awareness and influence were greatly enhanced. While achieving success in her career, Lynn's relationship with Lucas became even more stable. They shared the joy of success together and looked forward to a better future life. Lynn knew that although the road of her rebirth was full of hardships and challenges, with her own efforts and perseverance, she had finally found her own path to happiness. She would carry this firmness and courage, move forward, and embrace every new opportunity and challenge in future life.